Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex-Martial has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king. From rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more, Ex-Martial has got you covered. Ex-Martial is an extremely community-oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmartial.com and enjoy the fight. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. And I'm delighted once again to be joined by Brandon Varg. Brandon, how are you, sir? How are things?
I'm good, Taylor. Thank you very much. Enjoyed the fights on Saturday, so looking forward to getting stuck in there, talking about them.
Yeah, FYI, we're just going to talk about Dan Hooker for the next hour and a half, hour and a bit. So just to put that out there. No, and I'm also joined once again by a man who has just stopped crying from the news about Alex Poatan Pereira taking on Khalil Roundtree at UFC 307. John Gamebred Boguslavski, how are you, sir? How are things, mate?
Good, very good. Yeah, just like Brandon, very excited to talk about these fights. Very good pay-per-view we had. And yeah, I'm always enjoying being here talking about it.
Yeah, a banger of a card. Only really one fight that kind of let everybody down. Let's start at the top of the card. Dricuss Du Plessis doing, I guess, what Dricuss Du Plessis does in submitting Israel Adesanya in the fourth round after a fight that, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I had him losing the fight to that point. I thought Izzy did pretty well, but Dricuss with his weird, unconventional, confusing style just battered through and just said, "You shall not pass. You shall not take my belt. I will take my belt and I will take it back home to South Africa." I mean, first impressions of the fight overall, Jed. What did you think of it as a contest, Brandon?
I thought it was a very, very interesting fight. Dricuss Du Plessis doing what he does and looking pretty terrible for some of the fight, but still getting the win. It's crazy how he's so unconventional. It's unreal the way he throws punches, everything. He looked like he was gassed from literally the first or second round. He looked like he was completely blowing. But yeah, he still finds the energy to take Adesanya down in the fourth round and submitting. I thought it was a very, very close fight up until then. I understand why you would have Adesanya. I think I seen the judges' scorecards and they actually had Dricuss winning at that stage of the fight, which I thought was interesting. But it was a real good fight. Obviously, they both landed some significant shots on the fight. For Adesanya, I think he looked decent. It wasn't the best Adesanya we've seen by no stretch, but he definitely looked better than what he did against Sean Strickland. So there is some positives there that be taken out of it. But it was a really interesting fight. I did think Dricuss Du Plessis' grappling would be the difference, and it was in the end. I was kind of surprised he didn't try and grapple more because he was getting some success on the feet, don't get me wrong, but the longer it went on the feet, you just kind of felt like as he was sort of coming in and he was starting to become that sniper that he usually is. So I was surprised that Dricuss didn't grapple more, but it was a very, very entertaining fight, sure.
Yeah, just to go off of that, it looked like Dricuss had Izzy exactly where he wanted, face planted on the ground, right where Izzy ankles are, and he was able to take him down. It's weird watching Dricuss fight. It's so unconventional. It's like he does three things. He blitzes, he shoots for a takedown from anywhere, and he gasses out. That's the three common things Dricuss has in every fight. And after round two, it seemed like Dricuss he started opening his mouth again, started breathing from his mouth again, like we saw in his previous fights before Sean, like versus Till, where before he fixed his nose. And I thought Dricuss was gassed. That's it. Izzy had crazy body shots coming in, which we haven't seen. I think we did see some elbows. We haven't seen Izzy threw an elbow since I think the Gaslam fight. He hit the beautiful body shots, the 1-2 to the body worked. I think we saw some classic kind of Izzy, but it didn't seem like all of Izzy's back there. He seemed a bit weird after he was taking shots. He was doing more often, like he was shaking his head no, but clearly landed some beautiful head movements from Izzy, though. A lot of times Dricuss threw a big shot. Izzy, nice little style bender, usual dodges he did. But at the end of the day, Dricuss got the one moment he had to finish the fight. He got it. You know, he took him down. He rolled with Izzy and got the rear naked choke on him.
Yeah, I think there's two parts into that finish that really screamed out to me. First of all, was in the sequence leading up to it, Izzy turns his back on Dricuss and kind of I think he gets clipped by something and then he kind of turns and he's going away and I'm just like, that's just a bad idea, man. Like, doesn't matter who you're fighting, that's just a bad idea. And then second was it was a repeat of what happened. I think was it in the first or the second round where Dricuss had Izzy's back and he kind of had that choke. He was going for that choke and Izzy managed to defend it pretty effectively, really, and kind of dealt with him quite well and got it back to the feet. So I don't know whether it was fatigue that caused Izzy to get into that position because it just seemed a bit weird, or if it was just that Dricuss is kind of, I don't know, that inner dog that kind of won't be beaten, that kind of beat Izzy down a little bit and just kind of said, well, I've hit this guy with some big shots. And I think he did hit him with some big shots and he just kind of lost it from there. I mean, well, what can we say about Dricuss' performance? Like, do you think overall it was a good performance? Like, where do you think it sits in terms of his performances so far? I think Robert Whittaker is the standout, right, of Dricuss' career so far. But I mean, where do you think this performance sits in terms of his performances in the UFC?
I would say I think the obvious one you say is Robert Whittaker first, but outside of that, like how many times have you looked at a Dricuss performance and you've said he is going to be the next big star? He is very, very good because it doesn't usually happen. I remember kind of one of my first experiences watching Dricuss was obviously the Till fight and the Bronson fight. From memory, the Bronson fight was in the same card as Jones and Cyril Gane, so it was quite some time ago. And I remember looking at him thinking like he is on the same level as Bronson. Like they look like two very similar fighters, and the fact that coming into the latter rounds they were both sort of they were like two slugs, really. And it's just it's so weird. But to be fair to him, he is a winner. He finds a way to win every single time. You know, no one can figure out how to beat him, and he's picking up a winning record here. You know, he's got Brad Tavares, Bronson, Hill, Whittaker, Strickland, and Israel Adesanya. That is an incredible run in the middleweight division, and a division that is pretty bad, and it's hard to put runs like that together. So he's a serial winner. Is he the most polished fighter ever? No, by like not by any stretch. But it is quite interesting seeing someone because now guys like Adesanya, where they are so pinpoint in their striking, and guys like Sean O'Malley, where they've nearly got everything down to a T. It's really interesting seeing a guy like Dricuss go in there because he kind of reminds me of like a UFC fighter from back in the day, whenever it wasn't mixed martial arts and they were coming from different disciplines and it was all a wee bit messier. Dricuss is a guy like that, but he's doing it in today's day and age. So in terms of performances, I would say he beat Israel Adesanya. You have to put it at second behind Whittaker, really, don't you?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, very, very, very interesting. I mean, John, do you agree with that? That it's really that and the Whittaker performance, and other than that, we're kind of scratching our heads at what's going on with this dude.
Yeah, it's clearly Whittaker performance is his best performance. You know, he finished Whittaker in the second round. You kind of did it faster than Izzy did it. I don't know if there's a few minutes or seconds difference in the Izzy Rob first fight, but I mean, if like you're not an MMA fan, you never watched UFC in your entire life, and I showed you Dricuss fighting against Izzy, you'd feel like Izzy was the champion kind of, and Dricuss is like the new or just a completely new fighter. Like you just like it's so sloppy. It's so sloppy. It's like he has one move, he has two really moves against you. It's like he's gonna blitz and throw like 7 shots at you, or he's gonna throw a takedown from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it really seems like, I like how Brandon said, like the early days of UFC, like that's how it seemed like it looked like. Or like Derek Brunson's a very good comparison, because Brunson would like, Brunson would just be looking for a takedown. He would do some sloppy striking and then take you down eventually. And then, Drake is obviously comes from judo, and he did do kickboxing career, but it's just odd how he keeps winning. You can't take anything away from him. It's like he he does the job enough to win, and like he finished Izzy. I don't My scorecards, I had Drakus. I could argue Drakus was up 2-1. I could also have argue Izzy was up 2-1. I think clear round one, Drakus took it because of the takedown at the end and controlled Izzy for a bit. Then round two, he took Izzy down again, and that was, I think, a clear Drakus round. And round three was a clearly Izzy round, and that's when I thought, okay, he Drakus was gassed. Izzy has him, and then Izzy started strong. The round off really strong until the takedown. I can't figure out Drakus. I don't know. I will say though, Drakus is eating a lot of shots compared to the Strickland fight. This fight, he is taking a lot of shots. So I don't know how much more, if you're facing against clean strikers, how much more can he take until the chin goes away? But he's still young, so
Yeah, I
very
get
odd,
the
very
same
odd fight.
sentiment with him. Like, I get the sentiment that once he gets his life turned out, that's going to be it. People are going to figure it out. There's one guy who wants to turn his lights out. Before we switch over to Adesanya, I mean, just talk about what's next for Dricuss. Alex Pereira, as Alex Pereira does, has said he'll come back down to 185. Dricuss seems to think it'll be Strickland again, although I think I did catch something where he said that Whittaker actually deserves the shot, but obviously won't get it immediately because of the Hamzat match, and it'll probably be Strickland. I mean, is Strickland the only guy that can counter this guy because of his kind of unorthodox and weird style? Is it really a case of the style's got to work Dricuss out somewhere? I mean, is there even a path to victory for Dricuss for anyone in the division? Because you look at it now and the names he's beaten and things like that, it's tough to make an argument for a lot of people in that division against him.
I don't
It
know
is.
if Strickland is truly the next challenger. It's clearly Strickland, but if Rob comes out against Hamza and like puts in a masterclass performance, I don't think nobody's going to deny Rob. And also, I think the aspect of potentially fighting in South Africa might not be appealing for Strickland, because now it's 3 title shots in 3 different countries. Australia, Canada, and it would be South Africa. I don't think he wants to go to South Africa. He might wait it out and see if Rob wins against Hamza, or I feel like if Hamza might win, they might just throw him against Drakus as well, and then get him to fight in South Africa. But I think it's clearly one of those 3: Hamza, Whittaker, and Strickland. Strickland obviously has the lead right now. It depends what Rob and Hamza do in their fight.
I think it kind of comes down to the nature of the first fight between Strickland and Dricuss. That fight could have went either way. It wasn't a clear win for DDP by any stretch. And there was guys saying that Strickland was robbed. I definitely do not think he was robbed, but it was one of them fights where, you can make a decision for either and it would be justified. If that fight wasn't so close and it didn't end in that fashion, I would say there's no way Strickland should get another go, because he's only, am I right in saying he's only beat Costa since their last fight? Is that right?
Yep.
He's only had that one win against Costa. Um, so looking at it like that, he probably, Whittaker probably would be more exciting, but based on merit and based on the fact that Strickland really did go toe to toe with Dricuss, and it was a fight that could have went either way. I think everyone was calling for a rematch around that time because of the way the results went. They were saying, look, these two can't be separated. So I do think he deserves a shot, but I think a Whittaker and Dricuss fight sells a lot more than a Strickland and Dricuss, because it wasn't the most exciting of fights, their first fight. And it wouldn't surprise me if the UFC does overstep Strickland because of that. Because of the fact, if it wasn't the most exciting the first time out, the second time out, Dricuss or Strickland is a decision fighter. Dricuss, he can get finishes, but it's just not the most exciting fight on paper, especially as a rematch. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Whittaker needs a big statement. I think a decision win against Shmaev isn't enough. But I think if he goes out there and he gets a KO or a sub, or if he gets any kind of finish, I think it will be enough to overstep Strickland for the title shot.
Yeah, it could be.
Just
and
to
I mean,
mention that Pereira comment,
go man.
I don't think it's a good idea for Pereira. Sorry, I don't think it's a good idea for Pereira to move back down to 185. I think he hasn't been weight cutting since that last Izzy fight. He's been in light heavyweight for a while now. It's a big jump, 15 pounds, and we see Pereira get knocked out 185, and I do believe that's because of the weight cut. So I feel like it'd be better if Du Plessis actually got a few more title defenses and then moved up to fight Pereira. That'd be more appealing to me than Pereira.
Yeah, so Pereira can continue avoiding Magomed and Goliath. They could just continue not making that fight. Could you imagine? Yeah, I mean they could look. I mean they could realistically, if Du Plessis defends in January, let's say, against either a Strickland or a Whitaker, you could be looking at International Fight Week, something like that for an Alex Pereira. Dricuss going up. That's where I'd prefer to see it as well. I think Dricuss even intimated that he would go up. And then, hey, you never know. You never know. Alex Pereira's got that nuclear power that Izzy doesn't quite have 100%. So you never know. But then what does Dricuss look like at 205? The dude's such a problem. Right. 20 minutes and we haven't even talked about Izzy Adesanya. So what do you guys think about him? Is it time to call it a day? Does he have one more title run left in him? Does he go to Pereira to finish out that one in MMA? Like, what do you think for him?
I would say light heavyweight is the best option for him, to be honest. At middleweight, he's kind of fought everyone that would be worth fighting, and he's definitely, I think he's had something crazy like 12 title fights in a row or 13 or something at this stage. So his next fight, it definitely shouldn't be for a title, and it won't be. So I think this is time to move up to light heavyweight. There's some very, very interesting fights up there for him, Yuri Prohashka being one of them. Both guys coming off a loss. There's a very interesting fight. And if he can get a win over someone like Yuri Prohashka, imagine how big his third fight with Alex Pereira is then for the light heavyweight title. It just opens up a whole different world of avenues for Adesanya. Whereas at middleweight, I don't really see what else he can do to try and get back in the title picture there.
Yeah, middleweight Izzy is kind of done now. I feel he, like Brandon said, he fought really everybody and like kind of lapped when he was a champion already. That's why they forced Pereira into it. The only fight I could see for Izzy is to get that Strickland rematch, but I don't think Strickland wants the belt. I don't know if they'll just fight like a co-main event somewhere or like a main event on a fight night. That'll be the only fight I see for Izzy, but I do feel like it'll be way more exciting for Izzy to move up to light heavyweight. I think Izzy has way more exciting matchups there. Like imagine Izzy Yuri, if Yuri doesn't move down to middleweight, Izzy Jamal Hill, Izzy Rakic, like they're all exciting fighters, fresh fighters for him. And Izzy won't have any more kind of the height advantage. He's gonna have to have the striking advantage work for him. He won't cut as much weight, but I feel like Izzy. I know when people see Izzy in person, he looks taller and more jacked than it looks like on camera. But I feel like we have to see Izzy kind of bulk up to get to light heavyweight because he didn't do it correctly for Jan Blachowicz. So I do think he needs. I don't know if Izzy could afford another year off to bulk up and go to light heavyweight, but I think Izzy to go light heavyweight, he has to do it properly and he has to bulk up a little bit more. He has to look like he's bigger, belonging in the light heavyweight division, especially like a guy like Pereira looks so jacked. Yuri looks jacked. Rakic 6'4", natural lean muscles. Like Izzy just can't look apart from them. Versus Jan Blachowicz, he did look a little bit smaller. Jan's not the biggest, jack, most strongest guy. He has a little, he's a little dad bod. And Jan took care of him. So I just want Izzy to do it properly. But I think light heavyweight is the move. I think middleweight is kind of done. And you have your biggest rival there, and as a champion, and I'm sure Pereira will not say no for a third fight in MMA.
Yeah, Look, watching Izzy on Sunday. Like, I don't think he's done. I think he's 2 fights away from being done. And by what I mean is, go up against the Yuri. Don't go anywhere near Alexander Rakic, Magomed Ankalaev, even Jamal Hill. I just think they're too big. They hit too hard. Ankalaev's wrestling is too good. I mean, you look at what he did to Johnny Walker, right? And Johnny Walker cuts to get to 205. Ankalaev against Izzy Adesanya? No, thank you. Like, it's just not going to be pretty, I think, for Izzy. So I think go up there, get your 2 fights. Do Yuri, because I think that's a very winnable fight for Izzy. And then try and get the Alex Pereira third MMA. Is it third MMA fight? Fourth MMA fight? I lose track anyway. Try and get that one. Otherwise, don't even bother. Don't even bother at middleweight. Like you guys said, like there's no one left for him. The path to the title, unless Sean or Rob can beat Dricuss in January, your path to the title isn't really there. And even still, you've got to beat someone. And who are you going to beat? Imavov, right? If Imavov beat Brendan Allen in Paris, are you going to take him on a fight night or co-main event of a pay-per-view? I don't know. I don't know if the ego of Adesanya is ready for that. I don't know if that's his place. So I think if you're going to do light heavyweight, sorry, you do those 2 fights. You do Yuri Prochazka and nobody else, and then you try and do Alex Pereira, because I just don't like the matchups up there for him with those guys. You know, I mean, Jamal Hill, if he's going to fight Jamal Hill, he's got to point score him, which probably would bring the argument of, was it exciting enough of a fight for him to get the title shot over somebody else like an Ankalaev? I don't know. And I think against Yuri's got that style that could really fit in quite well with Izzy, as we've seen with the Pereira fights, right? If Pereira could do that to Yuri Prochazka, I think Izzy can as well. So that's my 2 cents on Izzy. Any final thoughts, gents, on the main event or either of those 2 fighters before we go into the co-main event?
I would just disagree with you that I think Yuri's an easy fight for Israel Adesanya. I think Yuri's unorthodox. He's been in that heavyweight. I think you forgot that Yuri finished everybody he fought in MMA by brutal knockout or submission. So I don't think it's gonna be that easy for Izzy. But it is his. It would be a fun matchup stylistically.
Yeah, it's about as tough as that sentence is to say, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the easiest fight.
I think Hill would be an easier fight, to be honest.
Do you?
I think he'll be an easier fight. I think we see Hill kind of stay on the outside, and he's gonna look for the bigger blows. And I think Izzy is more of a sniper than Hill, and then he'll be able to lead the dance.
Yeah,
I think the only advantage to fighting Prochazka over Jamal Hill is the size, in my opinion. Prochazka is someone that I'm actually surprised he's never fought at middleweight. He's not got like a massive frame the way some of these light heavyweights do. Whereas Jamal Hill, I don't know. I just think it'd be a bit too powerful for Izzy, a bit too strong for him. But they're both guys, you know. I would still much rather it over a Rakic or over a Ankalaev, because they're not going to mix it in with that grappling. And the size doesn't matter as much. It's just striking. It's when the grappling becomes involved that, you know, Izzy being too small for the weight division might actually play a big difference.
Yeah, I think that Rakic fight, just how big that dude is, like it's a little bit scary. Right, on to the co-main event. Don't blink, Kai Kara France. Said it in his nickname. We didn't need to blink for this one. Gets the knockout of Steve Erceg into ground strikes. I mean, we kind of had this, you know, we kind of went back and forth a little bit on this fight, and I think I can't recall if all 3 of us said it would be a decision, but we were all pretty much wrong. Like, I think we all kind of jumped on that maybe wrong. Kai would have a bit of a blitz at some point, and we thought Kai would be able to bring it to him, but I mean, I didn't quite see that happening. Oh, he brought it. He brought the Maui power from down under. Absolutely. I mean, hell of a performance from Kai Kara France. Puts him right in there, doesn't it?
You guys asked me if Kai Kara France wins, will he get for the belt? And I said no. But I think after that performance, I think I think he deserves the belt. I think he's there's nobody else in the contender that would actually be more exciting. You could see he did something in a minute to Steve Erceg what Pantoja couldn't do in 25. I think that speaks a lot.
Damn right.
Like, it took Kai Car fans a minute to figure out Steve Erceg. Erceg really didn't look like he belonged in there. He really looked like Kai's like, okay, he's this tall, this is the distance, and then steps in left, and then bam, right cross, and then again dropped him right after. Steve got right back up, and Steve's head almost hit the canvas. You could see he was very, very hurt. And like, damn, Kai Car France, don't blink, but Steve Erceg did blink. So
That was a beautiful shot.
So nice. It was. I mean, this is what we thought Rosenstrick tied to Uvasa would have done, but then Kai, the lightest division did it, and then Kai did it beautifully. And I think, I mean, what is it now? He has 25 fights and 13 first round finishes. That's kind of insane. That's insane stat. Somebody who has 11 losses in his career.
Yeah.
Still exciting when he's fully healthy. When he's fully healthy, he reads his opponent well. Kai Car-France is good. It almost looked like what he did to Cody Garbrandt, and all the hype is back on Kai Car-France. But no shame for Steve Erceg. Like, this is your fourth UFC fight, and you still have time. You're not like you're still in the top 10 ranking. Kai Car-France is now. I mean, I think Kai was actually the higher rank.
Yeah, Kai was at 4.
Anyways, before this fight.
Kai was at 4.
Yeah, Kai's at 4. So if anything, Kai might move up to 3, takes to somebody's spot. Depends on Albazi. If Albazi's still injured, he might actually drop down more. And then I could see Kai Car-France surpassing Albazi. Yeah.
I think the most impressive thing was the power Kai Car-France has in it. And I think this is why I agree with John. I think we both kind of sniggered whenever we says if Kai Car-France gets a win, will he get a title shot? We're like, no way. But he has something that Pantoja hasn't faced yet, and that is raw power. It doesn't come too often in the flyweight division, but Kai Car-France definitely has that. You know, to be getting 14 first round finishes as a flyweight, it's probably unheard of, to be honest. It's incredible. And I think the difference in a matchup with him and Pantoja is the fact that Pantoja won't be able to cruise to a decision win by grappling and stuff, because there's always going to be that threat of Kai Car-France catching him. So I think that brings a real interesting twist to the fight. Whereas when we've seen Pantoja in the past, you know, we've seen him against Royval, we've seen him against Erceg.
Moreno.
It's kind of
Erceg, yeah.
Moreno. Yeah, but like always sort of. He's not a finisher. He might get a submission and a striking's good, but he's not got that highlight reel finishing. Whereas Kai Car-France does have that, and I think that I think he is the man for the title shot next, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think he's gone out and done what he needed to do, right? And we talked. I mean, I've said it almost every single podcast that the flyweight division is on fire right now, and it's fun because it's moving so much. I think Kai's put himself right. You know, he overtakes Tatsuro Taira easily because he was the one who was touted to get the next shot. Anyone below that, forget about it. Brandon Moreno's obviously out. Amir Albazi, we have no idea what he's doing. Brandon Royval just lost to the champ. So I think it's pretty nailed on the Kai Car-France. If he can stay fit, he seems to have, I think it was concussion issues that he was looking at before they talked about during the broadcast. I mean, John, just as an immediate post-reaction, Pantoja Kai Car-France, how does it go?
It blew up. I think Kai Car-France's finish kind of blew up on social media.
I mean him versus Pantoja, sorry. Him versus Pantoja, how does that fight go?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I misheard you. Yeah. Oh, I'm very interested in Pantoja. We know Pantoja has a chin made out of like bricks and stones. So I don't know if Kai necessarily one kind of punch like he did to Steve would get Pantoja out of there, but Pantoja has been getting hit a lot. He's been going through wars with Moreno, Royval. Steve also cracked him a few times, especially that elbow on the forehead. Kai has a fighting chance for sure. I don't know who I'd go with at this point. I think just because Kai got the win more recently in my head, I feel like Kai will also knock the lights out of Pantoja. But I feel like it'll be a fun fight. I don't think people. I think you have to book this now while people are still on the hype train for Kai Kara France.
Yeah.
And book Pantoja and him in December. I think you got to do this quickly for if you're the UFC. You can book them anywhere because book them anywhere. Whatever December, Las Vegas is a co-main, or if you're doing a 3 title fight, co-main or future fight, kind of third card on the main card. I think it's gonna work perfectly, especially if like a Conor McGregor is on that card, or if like Alex Pereira is also like you gotta if you're flyweight, if you're Dana White, UFC, you want to do Kai Kara France Pantoja now while the hype is there, and the money line would probably move towards Kai Kara France for especially that first round knockout, especially how you compare these two, how they did versus Steve Versick.
What was that stat where it was something to do with weight classes below what welterweight over a certain age? The age was 33.
35 and older, welterweight and lower are
35
like
and over.
they're like only 3 wins, and Woodley has 2
Yeah,
of them.
that's right. Because I remember looking at the Steve Versick Pantoja fight, and I thought to myself, this might be Pantoja's last one based on that stat. But I'm just looking here. He's got until April next year until he's 35. So I think that fight will be happening before then. But it just shows, Pantoja's reign. Looking at that curse, as a curse that holds up. Even Volkanovski fell short to it. There's some good fighters have failed with that curse. So I think Pantoja has 1 or 2 wins left in his reign, and I think we will start to see him starting to lose. And there's no reason why Kai Kara France can't be that guy to ruin his run.
I mean, as the matchup goes, Brendan, how do you see the matchup going between the two of them if it is to get made?
I think if Kai Kara France doesn't finish him early, I can see Pantoja winning. But Pantoja's smart thing to do would be to try and grapple. He has got he looks very strong for a flyweight. Whenever he grapples, he can manhandle guys as if he's a lot bigger than what he actually is. He's very powerful and strong in the grappling, but it's a really hard one to call. I think just the fact that there's the threat of Kai Kara France knocking him out, and as I said, that's something that you don't get a flyweight at that one punch power that Kai Kara France has. So I don't know. It's a hard one to call. I would say Kai Kara France could get it done. And before that fight, I wasn't too much in the Kai Kara France train. I was like, oh, he hasn't fought in ages, but he went right back in there. And even before he knocked Steve Versick out, yes, there wasn't much that happened, but there were still a couple of exchanges he was getting the better of Versick in, and even that surprised me so early on in the fight.
Yeah, I agree with you
City kickboxing style, right?
It seems to be. No, I was just gonna say I agree with you guys that that's the fight to be booked. But go ahead, City kickboxing.
I was gonna say City kickboxing style, kind of feints, right? Do the feints, throw a shot, see how they react, and Kai read Steve like a book. Really, like it was clearly it was perfect. You can't be more perfect. I don't know how many people saw this matchup and they're like, yeah, Kai Kara France first round knockout.
Yeah, banger. Some believers, like if they did, they're absolute believers. I mean, a massive performance for Kai Kara France, especially considering what Steve Versick did the last time he was in the octagon. But takes us to a fight of the year contender, gentlemen. So Dan Hooker and Mateusz Gamrot. Safe to say none of us got this right. None of us saw this coming. But I think also safe to say that boy, are we pleased it did happen. How good was this, man, Brandon? Like, how good was this? We were texting back and forth about it earlier, and this is the fight we wanted to get to, man.
I could talk about this fight all day. What an unbelievable fight. And from round one as well, Hooker threw, I think it was like a leg kick, and Gamrot caught it and took him down in the very first round. And I thought to myself, that's not good. And I think Gamrot actually rocked him just before that. And I was like, that this is going to be a Mullen session the way we predict it. And Hooker came back in that round, and he actually, I have down all my notes from that. He actually won that round, and it was one of the best rounds that I had seen in a long, long time. What an unbelievable round that was. And then round two, Hooker, he defended well. He was smothered by Gamrot for about 2 minutes. Still defended well, but it was kind of more of what we expected to see from Gamrot. The way Gamrot shoots is so weird. It looks as if he's been dropped. Even in that second round, I thought Hooker had caught him, but he drops for a takedown and gets hit on the way, and it looks like he's nearly been put down to the canvas, but he's not. He's shooting kind of for it's kind of more like an ankle pick rather than a single leg. But oh my goodness, Dan Hooker, what a savage he is. I seen one saying online, Gamrot got robbed. I don't want to hear it. Hooker deserved to win that fight. Yeah, I have.
Ooh,
I have seen quite a few comments on Twitter and stuff, and quite a few people saying that Gamrot got robbed or that Gamrot should have won. Not in a million years should Gamrot won that fight, and I was glad it went the way it did as well, because there's been there was one judge that gave it to Gamrot. It was a split decision, wasn't it?
It was split, but robbery. Come on.
Yeah, definitely not. But even I was glad they see the decision going to the more exciting fighter, because in so many scenarios now we see wrestlers getting the decision because of control time and things like this here. But Hooker 110% deserved to win that fight. He's an absolute dog. And I posted it on my TikTok earlier. There's a clip of him in between rounds 2 and 3 where he said to the corner, "Boys, I love this. And he's got bumps in his eye and his face is pissing with blood everywhere. That guy is a G, and that was. If you didn't like Dan Hooker before that, I'd be very, very surprised if you don't like him now.
You cannot like Hooker. You cannot not like Hooker. Like that Hooker he's a definition of a mixed martial artist fighter. Like he loves it. He loves it. You want to see someone that loves it. He saw it. Like I would argue Gamrot did win round 1, and that's between round 1 and round 2. Hooker's in the chairs, yeah, woo, he loves this. And you can see in the post-fight interview too, guys hyped up. He's like, I want everybody. I want Holloway. He wants Gaethje. He wants Oliveira. Anybody. Hooker is the man. That was an awesome fight. I would have it third on my list for fight of the year so far. I still think Max Holloway and Gaethje is number 1, especially with that finish. I have Sopai and Oliveira as my second fight of the year. And this comes out a third. I think just Sopai and Oliveira was way more kind of high class fight, and then the finish, of course, was incredible there. Also, kind of last minute, like Holloway. Well, Holloway was last second, but yeah, you guys asked me, for Usyk and Kakar France, if Hooker and Gamrot, if the winner will deserve a title shot, and I'm like, not for Hooker, but after watching this, I'm like, yes, Hooker. I would throw him into the interim fight if it happens against Sarukian. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing Hooker or Oliveira. I think that would be, they're both Oliveira coming for loss, Hooker coming off a 2-fight win streak. Wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind even seeing Hooker. Sorry?
The battle of the bleached blonde hair.
Oliveira. Yeah, but Oliveira did better, right? Oliveira he was on a 12-fight win streak with 11 or 10 finishes. And he beat Chandler for the belt, with a one punch in the second round after he was losing it. So we could see a similar trajectory for Hooker, but I mean, what a fight! It's the fight was kind of awesome because of what Hooker did. Now, because what Gamrot did. Gamrot, other than a big knockdown he did in the first round that you mentioned, Brandon, it was Hooker was bringing it. Gamrot kept just running away, backing up, and just trying to go for the takedowns, because it seems like Gamrot can't do anything much more than getting a person down and try to control him there. And then Hooker, he's like, look, he defended after first round, second, third round, he defended the takedowns very, very well. A few times he did get taken down a few times, but worked himself back up. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go blow for blow. I'm gonna go punch you. I'm gonna punch you in your face and see who lasts longer. And that's I'll give Hooker, although Hooker did look like he got beat up more compared to Gamrot. I just think Hooker has so much like battle scars in type of way. Is it just me, or is Hooker always coming into a fight with like a cut underneath his eye? I feel like this is like the third fight in a row I see that. He always
Yeah,
has a cut
I think
underneath his
with
eye going into the fight.
I think with Hooker, even if the wind blew the wrong way, he'd probably start bleeding. He's probably got that much scar tissue kicking around and things
Yeah,
like that. Like that's just how it is.
it's
That's
like the
just how
Diaz.
these fights. Yeah, like the Diaz brothers, right?
It's like the like Nate Diaz. Yeah, like the Diaz brothers. But yeah, good for Hooker. He deserves that win. Uh, everybody loves him. There's nobody like saying like, oh, I don't like a Hooker fight. People don't probably have him as a good of a fighter like he should be the champion, but he's exciting. He's back in the top five. Give him the interim belt. Let's see what he does against Islam again. If he does get there, I'll be interested. I think it might just go the same. It might just be like an Islam dominance. He would just get out wrestled. But I
Mm-hmm.
see if Hooker could land some bigger shots on Islam, get his chin going, see test the chin, see how much more can Islam take his damage. But unbelievable fight. Good for Hooker. I think people are happy. People are more happy Gamrot lost because this is kind of one dimensional fighter, not as exciting in the lightweight division. And see Hooker in the top five is very exciting. You see, he has plenty of matchup. You could have the Chandler rematch. You could have Gaethje. I don't know if Poirier will be interested in a rematch against him. He could have the Islam rematch eventually. I mean, put Sarukian, see how he does against Sarukian. If Gamrot beat Sarukian, Hooker has a win over Sarukian. Let's see if MMA math works, and let's get the division going again. Make the division great again.
Make the division great again. Yeah, especially with Islam kind of being it's unknown, right? When his return will be. This really, I think it throws a spanner in the works because of the fact that him and Arman haven't matched up before, but also him and Charles haven't matched up before, and also him and Gaethje haven't matched up before. So there's some really exciting fights in there for Dan Hooker. Personally, I want to see the Charles Oliveira fight because I think that'll be the most entertaining, and then you just put Sarukian there to fight Islam again because I think he's earned it with the previous match against Islam, whereas Hooker got smashed by Islam, really, didn't he? And it's not too far behind us in the past. I mean, how would you see either of those two matchups going? And Brandon, do you have a preference as to who you'd like to see Hooker fight next, Arman or Charles?
I'm going to say Gaethje. I think I would like to see him fight Oliveira. I think Armin's next fight will be for the title. To be honest, I think he's earned that by beating Oliveira. I think Hooker should be fighting someone that's coming off a loss, one of them sort of top 3 or 4 guys, your Oliveira's or your Gaethje's. Stylistically, Gaethje's a better matchup for him because as much as Gaethje's grappling is very, very good, he does come from a wrestling background, which I always seem to forget because I think Gaethje forgets it too sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think Gaethje would be that there's one of them fights. Sometimes you can have entertaining fighters in a fight, like I spoke before, but like MVP and Wonderboy, and there's sort of a whole debate. But there's one saying that's a fight to make, but I actually don't think it would be because it would be a point scoring match. And there's times where entertaining fighters together don't necessarily mean an entertaining fight. But Dan Hooker and Justin Gaethje, that is like you could put your house on that being one of the fight of the year contenders. Like I would say, them guys, if it was a bad fight after the first round and they were cancelling each other out, I think them guys would go over and speak to each other and say, right, we need to give the fans what they want. They are that type of fighter where you are guaranteed and completely electric fight in there. And if Dan Hooker could beat someone like Justin Gaethje, I know Justin Gaethje's coming off that loss, but Justin Gaethje just before that loss got a win over Dustin Poirier. Like Justin Gaethje's still right up there in the lightweight division. I think Hooker needs a win like that before even thinking about title contention. I do think he needs one more win over a sort of a household name within that lightweight division. Something that Hooker done very, very well, I just want to touch on, is using the guillotine as takedown defense. I think Hooker kept shooting for the guillotine anytime he was close to getting taken down, and he wasn't doing it in the sense like Hooker knew rightly he wasn't going to finish them, but it gave Gamrot something to think about, and Gamrot had to address the guillotine instead of completing the takedown. Like, it just shows how powerful a good guillotine can be, or a quick guillotine can be. It's something that really impressed me about Hooker on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, guillotines are very powerful. Like, if you remember the Poirier fight versus Benoit Saint Denis, where like, why is Poirier still going for a guillotine? Why is he still going? And the coaches told him not to. But the guillotine, when BDS threw the takedown again, Poirier threw a guillotine. The guillotine was to stop the take. It's another takedown defense method, and then Poirier got to finish right after. So it's still powerful. It's a threat. It's a defensive threat in a way. Like, you have to defend it, and it's going to change your position. You got to do what now. You got to do come up with a new game plan, or a new. You got to do it a new position to figure out how to get through it.
So that brings us through to the split decision of Jorginho Rozenstruik and Tai Tuivasa. Somehow this was a split decision. I mean, I don't know what that judge was smoking or what he was watching. He must have thought that Rozenstruik was Tuivasa, because how you give it 3 rounds to nothing to Tuivasa is beyond me. I mean, a really disappointing fight, lads, really, wasn't it, to be honest?
I think we all predicted the finish, and no finishing sequence even close to coming to this fight. So yeah, disappointing fight, especially for Tuivasa, who's on a five fight losing streak now. All of them coming by finish except this one now. But it was a fight for Tuivasa to win, kind of. Rozenstruik's first win by decision now too, as well. He's finished all his wins except now this one. It was kind of the fight that we were really anticipating to have a finish, and it never came. And I think the story for this fight was really the one judge. That how do you could probably play devil's advocate for maybe, like, very tough for 1 round for Tuivasa, but like there's maybe like you can't even argue that was terrible. But for 3 rounds for Tuivasa, I don't know if that was Tuivasa's best friend, childhood friend that was trying to get back into his life or something, but that was horrid. That was just horrid. That was the worst judge scorecard of all time. It was worse than Costa and Strickland, who had Costa for 4 rounds, who scored it for 4-9-46. This is not supposed to be a split decision. It's supposed to be a unanimous decision win. Whatever his name was, his name sounded fake too. Something Hoos.
Hired something, wasn't it? Hired Biff or something there.
Yeah, he sounded like a fake name. That person should be blacklisted from MMA. You should never judge. I wouldn't even let him judge my 3-year-old cousin's my 6-year-old cousin's horseback riding competition. This guy should never be judging ever again, or go through counseling. I have no idea how you go 30-27 Tai Tuivasa. That was
it's
when
unreal.
I start hearing Bruce
it's ridiculous.
Like, when when Bruce starts saying like the individual judges' scorecard names are like split decision, how someone has it for Tai, and then I heard 30-27. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, get on Jorginho. Get on Jorginho getting the win. First, I think back-to-back wins in a minute for him in the UFC. He's now probably in the top. He's going to be fighting somebody in the top 10. He's in the top 10, so could slowly climb up to the rankings, but not as exciting fight as you thought would be. Sucks for Tai, 5-fight losing streak now. I don't know what we're going to do with him next. Rozenstruik's obviously looking up. I don't know if Tai has to go back to basics, fighting somebody outside the top 15 and get his winning ways back, at least get 1 victory to get his confidence back. Because even for a press conference, I feel like his confidence was not all there. It didn't seem like he was that excited to fight in a way. That was just me. I don't know if you guys saw it like that.
I actually got that vibe off him as well. I think it was maybe the first embed I watched, and he was in a car, and he wasn't even talking about the fight. He was talking about the party after. And it was something to do with, oh, I can't drink now, or I can't remember if
Yeah.
it was about drinking or eating junk food. I can't remember exactly, but all he cared about was the party after and being able to do what he wanted. And I agree with you, John. I kind of got that vibe from Tai Tuivasa as well. And this here should have been a fight where Tai Tuivasa, as I mentioned in the preview, this was a fight that was his to win because it was going to be a striking battle. There was no threat of a submission. There was no threat of a takedown from Rosenstrike, really, um, in front of his home crowd. This was Tai Tuivasa's chance to get back in the win column. And yes, he did try and close the distance between himself and Rosenstruck, but it was far too easy for Rosenstruck to kick out the jab or kick out a kick or throw out a jab and keep the distance. And as much as the fight came on, Ty, you could see him getting a wee bit agitated and he was trying to get inside a bit more. But it was just far, far too easy for Rosenstruck to just cruise the decision win there. That should not be happening. And Ty's home crowd, home country, when he's lost 4 in a row, this is stylistically the best matchup he's had in a while. It just shouldn't be happening. And as for that judge, I was quite I have to touch on that. It was quite refreshing to see that they did bring him off the judging panel because I think he was meant to do, was it the Hooker fight after? Yeah, so they didn't let him back out to judge any of the other fights, but he can't be allowed to judge full stop because sometimes judges make bad decisions or they judge it wrong, and you can play devil's advocate and you could say, right, I really don't agree with it, but maybe they might have thought this punch landed harder, or Tai Tuivasa won in 3 rounds there. No matter what eyes you look at that fight through, that did not happen. It didn't. So that judge needs sacked. Tai Tuivasa.
Maybe he thought Rosenstruck was actually tied to Ivasa and just got confused with the two.
That's the only logic.
There had to be something like that.
That's the only answer. I mean,
logic, yeah.
To be fair, it would have been very curious to see how this guy would have scored the Gamrot Dan Hooker fight. I'm quite curious to see what he would have done. All hell could have broken loose. Like it's not worth it. It wouldn't have been worth it. So good on the UFC for booting him out there. But yeah, sad for Tuivasa. I guess there's 2 options really. I think for Rosenstrike, you've got Spivak or Pavlovich. Those are the only ones that he's not fought and not lost to. Really, he's lost to Almeida, lost to Volkov, lost to Blades, lost to Garn. That's the only options, I think. Really, those 2, right?
Has he fought Tibura?
No, he has a cancelled bout against Tibura. So no, that's another option, I suppose.
Yeah. I know Tibura is coming off a loss, but I think I suppose after this he might not be ahead of him in the rankings, but yeah, I think the Pavlovich one is a real interesting one, a very interesting fight between him and Rosenstruck.
I feel like they'll do Pavlovich just to get somebody new in the top 5 of the division and somebody who won't be a rematch for Aspinall.
Jairzinho's on
with Jones, but yeah, I think it's definitely him.
He's on a win streak. He's on a 2-fight win
3
streak.
Of the last 4.
Yeah, you could sell it on
3 wins in the last 4.
You can sell it on a fight. Yeah, you can sell it on a fight night, and main event, something like that. Really, couldn't you? With Pavlovich coming off the loss as well. So I mean, one thing where we were all right was Carlos Prates going out there and absolutely running through the leech, Li Jingliang. I mean, look, I'll hop back on my horse and say I said it would be the second round. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he absolutely flatlined the guy. And the commentary team must have said about 4 times that he's the only guy to finish Li Jingliang. I mean, what a performance, eh? Yeah. I mean, he was lucky to make it out the first round. This is like, John, you remember when we predicted Pereira versus Prohajka? And I said Pereira would do it in the first round. This is a bit like that, right? Like, it was so finished in the first round it could have been. But it was a bit of a miracle that he made it to a second round, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just want to correct you. It's the first time Li Jingliang got knocked out. I think
got knocked out. Yeah.
Sorry, it's not. Yeah. Just my nerd coming out of me.
No, you're right, man. You're right.
I mean, what a role Carlos is on. Like I said, something clicked after his last loss. He's like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to. He wins. He once or twice. Like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to fight. And I'm excited. The welterweight division, like with all these fighters now, like I would throw him in with Ian Gary. I would throw him in with Shafkat. Like I not now, but like eventually I'm like that'll be exciting fights. And Carlos, he's also really good at submissions. If I'm not mistaken, it's okay. He has three submission wins, but like he's good, well rounded. He only has three decisions in his whole entire career, wins or losses. Like this guy's a finisher. His losses, we said, came early in his career, and he proved against Ling Jingliang, who nobody knocked him out. Nobody finished it. Ling Jingliang should be fresh off a 2-year layoff, something like that. Beats the brakes off him. Dominated everywhere, every round, every second of it. When he got hit, he threw right back. And I never seen Ling Jingliang hurt that badly off strikes. And it seemed like he couldn't take it more. And just that last shot just did it. It just beautiful uppercut. I believe, uppercut. Sat down Lee, and I think even the commentary team was saying he was still asleep. He couldn't get up for like another minute or two.
The thing that impressed me most about him was the fact that it was as if he was chasing the highlight reel KO. He wasn't happy with knocking him down and ground and pounding him. He kept dropping him and standing back and waiting on him getting up. And I don't think it was scared to grapple with the Leech, because you would see that quite often if a striker drops a grappler, they're maybe worried they go down and try and finish it there and then in case they get caught up in a battle on the ground. Whereas it was as if like Protez, he wanted to knock the Leech out with one punch, and he wanted to put him out cold without needing any ground and pound. And oh my goodness, that guy is crazy, crazy good. That there left hand that he has, it's powerful. It kind of reminded me, he's a far better striker than McGregor, but the way he throws that left hand, that coming from the back, that like overhand left, it's dangerous. As you say, complete domination for every minute of that fight. The Leech, fair play to him, he kept walking forward. Even in the second round, he kept walking forward and throwing punches, but it was kind of like the Anderson Silva and Forrest Griffin, when Forrest Griffin was throwing punches at Silva, and he just knew exactly the right distance that he needed to be. His understanding of the range between him and the Leech was out of this world. In terms of what's next for Protez, an interesting one. MVP, I would put him in there with. Interesting fight.
John's not having that. Yeah, I mean, I was going to throw some names out, kind of looking at the welterweights where they are right now. I mean, you've obviously got Vicente Luque's unbooked, Michael Vage is unbooked, Rude Boy Randy Brown unbooked, Nicholas Dalby unbooked. Dalby, the last of which coming off a loss. MVP is coming off a loss. Vicente Luque is coming off a loss. I think Vicente Luque, I don't, for MVP's sake, I don't want to see him against MVP. Like, I agree. Brandon, I think it would be a tremendously fun matchup, but I don't want to see MVP go down like that. Like, no. Put him with Vicente Luque, get some Brazil on Brazil action. I mean, even Randy Brown would be fun, but John knows my affinity for Randy Brown. So, yeah, Vicente Luque, please. That would be nice.
That's why I was going like this so much. I wouldn't give it. MVP is looking up. I don't think MVP is looking outside the rankings. I like the Dalby matchup. I think it's like Dalby was considered to be right outside top 15, right? And then he lost in Saudi, and he was on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. I wouldn't mind that matchup. See how Carlos does, because he's also a striker, and Dalby's kind of more well rounded too. Maybe give him the Bonifim brother. That's in welterweight. There's a lot of fun matchups here with Paradis. Luque, if you want to throw him in right away in the rankings, I don't know if Luque is still ranked or is right.
Luque is still ranked.
I think he's 13 for something.
13, yeah. So I think that'll be, if you want to get Paradis ranked, that'll be an easy matchup to do versus Luque. Get him number 13 and then start building him up in the rankings from there. And Paradis looks fresh. He could fight probably in 309.
Yeah.
You see 309 in MSG.
I think they should try and not rush him through, but I don't really see the point in them having another fight outside of the rankings. He's not one of these guys that's coming in with like an unbeaten record and he's a
He's got a big
prospect. He's
record,
well
yeah.
into his MMA career. He's got a big record. He's got a vast amount of experience, whether it's kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA. He's built up a real good resume for him now, and he's been beat before. So he doesn't need to test it in that way. I think throw him in the rankings if he gets a win over the likes of Vicente Luque. I think MVP, as much as I'm an MVP fan, and I would think it was a terrible matchup for him, but in the entertainment business, that is an incredible fight. Whereas Vicente Luque, like, I don't know, I think there's a clear path to victory for Protez against Vicente Luque. In the sense that his striking is just far, far too good for him, and I can see him doing something similar to what he did to the Leech. Whereas MVP, it would really test his striking. We would actually get to see how good Protez's striking is in this division. But I think get him in the rankings now. Another 3 wins. Start giving him the Shavkats, the Ian Garys, and this guy is going to go all the way. In my opinion, he's scary, scary good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he could go. So I'm going to give each of you a couple of minutes just to wax lyrical about the prelims. John, we'll start with you. I know you want to talk about Walter Walker and Junior Taffa.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are 50-50 on this stoppage. Walker got the heel hook. Taffa, he did let out a yell. And if you're a ref in mixed martial art, when somebody yells and they got in a finishing position on you, on a submission like that, you're yelling, it's a clear stoppage. You have to stop that fight. Guy's in pain. And anything longer, a few more seconds, that he would have probably popped if anything. It reminds me kind of like Islam versus Hooker. And when Islam got the Kimura on Hooker didn't tap. He kind of yelled, although the yell was probably louder and kind of much more convincing. The ref did his job. The fighter was uncomfortable. It was kind of like we saw this a few weeks ago with Spivak and Tybura. Tybura kind of, I don't know if he yelled stop, but did Tybura yell stop or tap, tap, tap? The ref did his job. So I have no problems with that. He did what he needed to do. And, good on the ref for actually doing it and not letting like a hometown favorite kind of dictate how the fight would actually go. I want to give a quick shout out to Casey O'Neill. She blew the brakes off Roxanne Ferry. I thought she's gonna be one of the bigger prospects in the division, the flyweight division for women's. I don't know if she broke her leg before that and she had surgery or after her first loss, but she's coming off 2 losses. She needed this win, dominated 3 rounds. I'm glad she got the win. And I would just say cut Herbert Burns now. I think we've seen enough of him. I think Herbert Burns is not a UFC caliber fighter, not even a fun one.
Yeah, too right. Right, Brandon, you got just over a minute, mate.
Yeah.
What did you like on the prelims?
First fight of the night, Stuart Nickel, Jesus Aguirre. That was one that we mentioned. I thought Stuart Nickel, I thought it was going to be interesting seeing him against UFC caliber. I mentioned that his opponents so far didn't look great. Stuart Nickel started that fight very, very well. But Jesus Aguirre got a lovely, lovely win there. The other ones, I 100% agree with John and the Walter Walker and Junior Taffa. The ref done the right thing. So something that's interesting about that as well is the fact that the words tap or submit or a verbal tap, it's not universal. If you're in a different country or judo guys, I think they say like mate or something different. There is different words they verbally submit. So by letting out a yelp, you give the referee no option because, you could be saying tap and it might sound different, so it's the waters becomes very, very muddy there. So the referee 100% done the right thing. And again, shout out Casey O'Neill. I didn't pick her for this fight. I thought Santos's judo would have been too good, and she done very, very well. Managed to stay very, very disciplined as well, in the sense that she knew when to get in and out of range. backed her jab and threw punches after it, and very, very good performance from her. And it's good to see her. Good to see her back in the win column. I know she kind of is Aussie, but you still kind of have that connection because she's got the Scottish connection. You still feel like she's a bit of a UK fighter, so I was good to see her getting a win.
Right, fellas, that'll do us. Thank you both very much for your time, and we'll catch everybody in the next one. Thank you all very much.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Bye bye.